What's going on, my lovelies? It's Kyle here. So I want to talk to the empaths today, you beautiful, kind, loving, empathetic souls, and I want to talk about a a concept and a dynamic that plays out for many of you that I've seen. I just want to bring it to light, shed some light on it. It's called parentification. And it's essentially this role reversal where the child, in their childhood, and I want to talk about how this also extends into adulthood because I don't make these videos for children. They're all 18 plus. And how this dynamic continues into adulthood and how to break it down and why it's important to be aware of it and to find where you want to draw some boundaries and the lines and know it's okay to do this in regards to your parents. So parentification is when, and I pulled up an article by verywell.com. I'm going to leave the link in the description. Pull it up, follow along, or just go into more detail after this video if you would like. And I'm just going to skim over this. So parentification occurs when there is a reversal in roles between a parent and child, and the child gets pulled into the role of emotional, physical, or logistical caregiver for the parent. Now, obviously, there's a healthy level to all of this, and some of it is very acceptable. But when these it becomes pronounced to the point where the child literally feels responsible for taking care of their parent, and that burden is placed on them time and time and time and time and time again, it's not healthy. And it's also not healthy when these patterns extend out into adulthood. And they say, have you ever felt like you took care more of your parents than they did of you? Do you feel like you practically raised your siblings? Did you end up taking a lot of responsibility at a very young age? You might have experienced parentification. And during this, I want to talk about not only in the more practical and more grounded ways of taking care of your parents and having to take care of your siblings or having to do anything along those lines. I also want to primarily talk about emotional parentification, where empaths have a tendency to end up therapizing their parents, where their parents go to them for therapy, for emotional regulation. You might have been expected to emotionally regulate one of your parents or both. It might have been on you to be the mediator in the family when you were far too young to be doing that. And you might have carried that role into your adulthood. And I just want to talk a bit about, where to draw the line on this. Well, ultimately, it's up to you. Is your parent calling you every day to vent to you about what's going on in their life? Is your parent calling you consistently and expects you to take care of them, to take care of their needs, to listen to them time and time and time again, to the point where it's bleeding into your life, where it's bleeding into your time and energy that you need to take care of your life, where you need to work, where you need to uphold some of your friendships, where you need to uphold your romantic relationship, or you want to devote that time to a hobby instead of being your parents' therapist when they fully are able to take advantage of resources like a therapist, an actual professional therapist that gets paid for their time, or to join some sort of support community. If they're religious, you can join any sort of religious community, or you can join any community that's about supporting each other. Or you can push them to make some friends instead of you being their friend, instead of you being the one that they rely on all the time. This is up to you to decide where you want to lay those boundaries. This is up to you to decide whether it's too much for you, whether you want to start focusing on your life and creating the life that you want instead of taking care of your parents, especially when they are fully able and willing to do so. So, and it talks about the causes of parentification, why this occurs, and how this occurs. It's good to have compassion and understanding for your parents, how they ended up this way. Perhaps they had a very traumatic childhood. Perhaps they've gone through a lot of stuff. Whatever the case may be, it's okay to be, it's good to be compassionate, but at the same time, you need to align with that truth that you might deeply be feeling like, actually, I want to pull away from this. Actually, I don't want to be the therapist. I don't want my parents to like talk about their marital problems with me. It's not good. It's not necessary. It feels very heavy on me. It weighs me down. I think about it too much and it gets in the way of my other life when they should be taking advantage of other resources and putting that baggage and that weight on other people where it's not going to be heavy for them. It's heavy for me because this is the fact. The parent-child relationship, it's riddled with burdens and heaviness and baggage. So anything that your parent puts on you, it's going to feel even heavier compared to if your friend does it, compared to if somebody else in your life does. And you need to be aware of that dynamic and that it's okay and you should put up those boundaries if you're being overly parentified by your parents, where you are taking care of them to an unhealthy extent. That boundary and that it's going to be up to you. Okay? And it's good to be aware that, you know, the signs of parentification, you might have grown up where you were the therapist as a child, where you did have to take care of things, where you did feel much more responsibility and the burden on your shoulders where, quite frankly, you deserve to have a much more free and carefree childhood. So you might experience more self-doubt, strong desire to people please. Empaths, you already have this desire. This might be heightened from this, and you might feel the desire to please your parents to an unhealthy extent instead of putting up those boundaries, which you know you deeply want to do. Difficulty with assertion. You might have difficulty asserting to them like, I can't be doing this and I'm not going to do this. I'll help you transition. Like, here's the therapist, check them out, or get a community. Like, I'm done with this. So you might be having a hard time asserting what you know you deeply desire in that relationship. And you might be experiencing a lot of guilt. When you're asserting these boundaries, you might be feeling so guilty. And if you can, let that go. You shouldn't be feeling guilty. This is not your burden to bear. And to be honest, if you want what's best for your parents, it's good to help push them to become a healthier individual, to develop healthier patterns, to rely on relationships or therapists or communities that will be there for them outside of you taking care of them. That's healthy for them. They're making new connections. They're going to get a different person's perspective. That's healthy for them. Always know that. They might give you some pushback. They might be pissed off at you or guilt trip you. If you can, don't try to absorb any of that. Stay firm with your boundaries. Stand firm with what you want and keep moving forward and knowing that you shouldn't feel guilty for this. And once again, it goes into suppressed needs. This parentification might lead into you having relationships where you consistently suppress your needs for the other person. And you might find yourself falling into this dynamic. It's good to be aware of this and how this might play out into your other relationships. Might play into mental health issues and emotional regulation, all that kind of stuff. So I'll let you go through this article in more detail if you would like. But I just wanted to gloss over this and bring this dynamic to your attention, empaths, and the fact that I see many empaths that are parentified, that have been parentified, and quite frankly want to and desire to put up these healthy boundaries where they get to then stop holding all this weight and baggage and of taking care of their parents, because they know deep down they want to go live the life that they want to do. They want to put their time and energy into things that deeply fulfill them, into other relationships, to build a more balanced, healthy life. And quite frankly, if you were overly parentified by your parents, it might be difficult for you. So it's okay. If you find yourself and you need to set up these boundaries, I encourage you to do so. I encourage you to maybe go through your relationships with your parents and see where this can apply. Or see, maybe you're not being parentified now as an adult, but maybe where this has manifested in your life and where you can start breaking down those dynamics. But I'm going to leave it here. Hope you're having a lovely day wherever you're at in the world, empaths. And until next time.